We all know mochi as in mochi ice cream, but imagine mochi and red beans in a chewy soft bread. This recipe, unlike my previous ones, is made with Tangzhong, a Chinese name for a water roux, and allows the bread to stay nice and soft for days. To make the Tangzhong, in a small saucepan, whisk together 20 grams of bread flour and 100 grams water until there are no lumps. Cook the mixture over medium heat. You want to make sure you keep on whisking, and in about 3 to 4 minutes, it'll thicken up really fast, so when you see that it is just starting to thicken, you want to turn off the heat. It should have a thick, pasty consistency, just like this, and when you run your whisk through the mixture, you should be able to see the traces of the whisk, and that's your Tangzhong started right there. For the actual bread dough in a large mixing bowl, take 270 grams of bread flour, and to that add 30 grams of all-purpose flour, 25 grams white granulated sugar, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of instant dry yeast. Mix all the dry ingredients up really well. Next, for the wet, you'll need 80 grams of lukewarm milk. When your finger touches it, it shouldn't feel too hot. Add the milk, but save just a tiny bit for later. Next, take 1 large beaten egg and add just 40 grams of it, which is about 3 tablespoons. Now add the Tangzhong. It should look somewhat like a paste now that it is cooled. You want to add all of it, which should weigh around 100 grams. Using a spoon, mix everything until you see a lumpy, dumping mixture. When you can't mix it anymore with a spoon, take your hands and dig in. All you're doing here is bringing the dough together, not actually kneading it. When it feels a bit dry and it looks something like this, you want to add in the remaining milk. And this is the reason why we reserve that bit of milk, just so that we retain the moisture. Then continue kneading, just gentle kneading until you get a pretty stiff dough on your hands. Transfer the dough to a work surface and use your hands to actually knead it. The kneading method is to take one hand and grab onto the dough, while the other hand pushes the dough forwards and pull it back. After 5 minutes, the dough will still be a bit tacky but less sticky. You want to spread the dough out and smear 15 grams of softened unsalted butter onto the dough. Then close the dough up and continue kneading. It'll feel greasy and slimy at first, but if you keep on kneading, the dough will eventually absorb the butter. As you knead, you may want to slam the dough every now and then to help the kneading process. Just take the dough and throw it on the work surface, and then just push and then pull. You want to continue kneading, slam, push, and pull for 25 to 30 minutes until you get a smooth and elastic dough. A well-kneaded dough should pass the window pane test. Stretch a piece of the dough out as far as you can, and you should be able to see a really thin layer, thin enough that your fingers can be seen through. When it tears apart, it should be a round circle, not jagged or crude, and that is all for kneading. Form the dough into a ball by tucking the sides underneath. Then you want to place your dough in a bowl and spray the top with water. Then cover the bowl with a damp towel to let the dough rise for 1 hour. I find the best place for letting the dough proof is the microwave because it is a warm spot and it is quite secure there. While the dough is rising, let's make the mochi for the filling. You'll need a quarter cup of sweet rice flour or mochiko. This is a brand I use that is very common in local Asian markets. Add 1 tablespoon of white granulated sugar, then mix in 2 tablespoons of water. You want to whisk those up, and when it gets lumpy like this, you want to add another 2 tablespoons of water. Then mix, then another tablespoon, mix, and lastly add 1 teaspoon of water. This is a total of 5 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of water. You want to mix it up really well, mix everything well together, and the mixture will look not too thick nor too thin. Now cover the bowl with a plastic wrap, and you can either microwave or steam it. Since I have a special food steamer, I find steaming a better option, but I'll have the microwave directions in the description. The important part is to make sure it is cooked through. After steaming or microwaving the mochi, you want to stir it vigorously with a spoon while it is still very hot. It should be really sticky and stretchy. And now just set it aside and let it cool in the bowl. And that is our mochi for the filling. So after an hour, the dough should have doubled in size, and when you poke the middle, the hole should not bounce back like shown here. Now take the dough and divide the dough into equal pieces. If you want all of your pieces to weigh exactly the same, you can divide the total weight of the entire dough by the number of pieces you want to make. Then you can see how much each piece should weigh. Now, this recipe yields 8 to 9 pieces, each weighing about 60 grams. Form each piece into an approximate bowl, just roll them around, then let them rest on the counter for 15 minutes covered with a damp towel. Meanwhile, you want to take some muffin liners and flatten it out, then scoop out 1.5 tablespoons of sweet red bean paste onto it. After the 15-minute rest, it's time to fill these up. Take a dough piece, roll it out to about a 1/4 of an inch thick with a rolling pin, then plop on the scoop of red bean paste and add a scoop of the mochi. Now here's the cooled mochi. It should have firmed up a bit, but still super sticky because mochi is the stickiest thing. A cookie scoop seriously helps a lot. Now take the dough with one hand and start wrapping it up by pulling the edges and closing it up in the center. Add a spray of water to close all the edges up, make sure it is secure. To shape the dough into a ball, with one hand holding the bowl, use the other hand to curve the sides of the ball. You want to kind of turn the ball, and then after you're done, you want to place the round ball onto the muffin liner and place it onto a baking tray, then repeat with the remaining pieces. For the second and last proofing, spray the buns with water, then cover them with a damp towel and let them rise for another hour until they are doubled in size. After an hour, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and to add a pretty golden brown look to our bread, the last step is to brush the surface of each bun with a bit of the remaining egg. You can garnish the surface with sliced almonds if you like. Now bake the buns at 350 for 18 to 20 minutes. The tops should be nicely browned. Then after baking, let cool on the baking sheet. The bread itself is soft and fluffy, and it smells amazing too. Then there's the mochi, which is nice and chewy, so you get a mix of sweetness, chewiness, and fluffiness, and altogether it becomes happiness. If you've never tried mochi and red beans inside of bread, you've got to make this. So that's it. If you have any questions, comment them down below, and I'll have all the cup and gram measurements as well as other important notes in the description, so check that out.